Some listeners feel that the most intimate experience you can have with recorded music is by using headphones, not just because of the proximity to your ears, but it's the way their voicing, their aural personality gets right inside your head. An excellent example of that are the Meze Audio 105 AER headphones. For the Absolute Sound, I'm John Quain. The Meze Audio 105 AER headphones are designed for listeners who like to listen to a wide variety of music, from speed metal, let's say, to raga. And they're priced at $399, which is an entry point for most people just exploring the audiophile space. So they're a good introduction to that. The company, in case you're not familiar with them, has been around since 2011, and they were founded in a very picturesque part of northwestern Romania, and they're named after their founder, and that's Antonio Meze. So the company focuses mainly on headphones. They have a wide variety in their lineup already. They do focus a lot on planar magnetic headphones, so you'll see those in the higher end market. This is more of an entry-level headphones for people, as I said, just starting out. The 105 AERs are conventional wired headphones with a traditional dynamic drivers set in an over-the-ear open back design. Outwardly, they have kind of a retro look to them. They're reminiscent of Art Deco designs of the 1920s. And when people were infatuated with this sleek airplane, steel, metal, and these futuristic designs, ziggurat motifs, that sort of thing. Certainly the honeycomb backs of these headphones and the self-adjusting headband design is suggestive of aircraft designs of the period. The headband, I must say, is very practical. In fact, it might be the most comfortable set of wired headphones I've auditioned in many years. So what's in the package? To begin with, these headphones come with a hard traveling case, detachable Kevlar cables, a 3.5 millimeter jack is built in. There's also a 6.3 millimeter jack adapter for standard stereo equipment. There's a 55 millimeter transducer, and that is a little larger than some in this category, yet it has an impedance of only 42 ohms. That makes them appropriate for, let's say, a mobile device, devices that don't have that much power that are pulling out milliwatts, for example, a smartphone, if you will. So with that kind of sensitivity, you get about 112 dB sound pressure levels, loads of volume at about 1 milliwatt and about 1K. So again, these are very efficient headphones, and they certainly have designed them to work with mobile devices like a smartphone, even though you may be using a headphone amp instead, or plugged into an integrated amp, something like that. We try them in all different kinds of situations to see how they change their sound characteristics. We're pretty comparable across all uses. And in terms of weight, a lot of people worry about these sitting on your head and fatigue. These only weigh about 336 grams or under 12 ounces. So that's, again, comparable. It's on the lighter side of over-the-ear headphones in this category. We live with these, the AERs, the 105 AERs, for many weeks, and Meze headphones became familiar friends. We use them on outboard DACs. We use them with headphone amps. standard integrated amps, and even with a couple of portable music players. I know that's a shocker, right? The overall sonic personality of these headphones, that's what we're really interested in. They are a crowd pleaser. They're like that person at the cocktail party who seems to know a little bit about everything without coming across as a pretentious know-it-all. So these are headphones that you can invite to any party. Overall, they have a warmer personality than most, but not so warm that they blur the boundaries between instruments. They manage to keep instrumentation pretty separate. Excellent soundstage. There is, yes, a touch more bass than you'll find in many other open-backed headphones in this range. And yet, the 105 AERs manage to retain some precise voicing, and they never allow the bass to become too dominant or boomy. I want to contrast that with completely flat, colorless headphones, although such an ideal is very difficult to achieve. And when it is achieved, many listeners find that flat, colorless profile as coming across as dead rather than alive. On the other end, there are those headphones with transparent transducers that tend to lift string instruments up into the celestial sound stage. That's at the other extreme. Somewhere in between those two, the Meze 105 AERs sit. They have a much more rounded, full-throated approach to music reproduction. You get the forest and the trees. To really describe the personality of the Meze audio headphones, the 105 AERs, a lot of music listened to. Start out with a little power pop from Fountains of Wayne and their Traffic and Weather album. We listened to some tracks on that over and over again because it's a favorite album. What's challenging about that record is that the mid-range mix is really packed together, and so that you have these guitars and synths wrapped around each other. Separating that all out for the drivers is a particular challenge. These headphones did very well at that indeed. We could clearly get the soundstage out of it and could pick out different instrumentation that we wanted to follow through the mix, as well as these sardonic, sarcastic vocals, the hallmark of Fountains of Wayne, which stayed front and foremost. So again, good party guest. If you want to go heavier rock, there's Physical Graffiti, the remastered version of the Led Zeppelin classic. Again, drums are first and foremost, often in many of the tracks like Custard Pie, really punchier here. Definitely a plus of these headphones for that open back design. And again, it still retained the kind of balance and aliveness. This record was recorded at Headley Grange, which was an old workhouse in Britain that became famous for recordings from Led Zeppelin and Genesis. At any rate, it's got a very live feeling, but you don't get that live feeling unless you have some very high quality equipment to reproduce that speaker's headphones. These headphones did an excellent job with that. You want more bass, more of an outing? Father John Misty's track, She Cleans Up, very popular, catchy number. The song is a big, bombastic, theatrical number. It owes a lot to the Black Crowes, to an Australian band, Wolf Mother. It sounds a lot like that. It's a rollicking song full of big tom-toms and a squawking saxophone and slapping bass lines. The point is that this over-the-top composition receives a solid outing from the 105 AERs. On the other hand, you could contrast that with Steve Reich and his collected works, just recently released. Almost everything he's ever recorded. Tehillim is a great track on that. It's a test of these soaring, interwoven soprano and mezzo-soprano vocals. There's a very taut percussion underneath. It's all kept aloft with this huge soundstage. And even these lower register cellos that come in later in the number and this kind of repeating rondo, all that was handled very nicely by the personality of the AERs, the 105 AERs. I thought they did an excellent job with it, in fact, but did compare it several times with other headphones in our lineup around here. When I switched to some others, they gave it a lighter touch, so you heard the female vocals tend to soar more. But then the cello, it was a little thinner, and I missed that enhanced presence that the 105 AERs gave that track. Finally, For some jazz, and a good example is Barney Kessel and the Pole Winners 3, remastered high-res version of that album, which is great, from the 50s. It's the sort of jazz that you might play at a laid-back cocktail party. Leslie Caron might appear at a party like that. Boy, that's dating, right? The 105 AERs did very well indeed. They gave Kessel's guitar just the right amount of depth and fullness, the kind of sound you would expect to get if you were sitting in front of him, in front of one of those old tube amps from the 1950s. So in today's parlance, it was super chill. We've said this before, but it's worth repeating. Look, no matter how enlightening or transparent or uplifting a pair of headphones are or may sound, it won't matter a whit if they're uncomfortable, because you're simply not going to use them, or that's going to cut into the entertainment of them. And certainly listening to that music reproduction will be a big distraction if they're not comfortable. Fortunately, the Meze Audio 105 AERs are perhaps the most comfortable headphones I've tested in a long time. That suspension, self-adjusting design worked extremely well. Never felt fatigued at all. So that is a very, very important point with these headphones. Overall, their music personality, too, is not one you're going to get tired of. You won't want them to leave the party after a while. They adapt to a wide variety of music, and they don't lean one way or the other. So again, a great entry point for someone just starting out to build their first system. If you enjoyed this review and appreciate the reviews on this channel, please hit the like button and subscribe to the Absolute Sound video channel. We'd much appreciate it. Also, don't forget there's a newsletter if you'd like to get more information. It's always helpful. And we love print. There is a print edition that you can subscribe to as well at the Absolute Sound. For the Absolute Sound, I'm John Quain.